It's a privilege to be with such a distinguished audience. I stay humbled in this conversation. It really is not a lecture of any sort. It really is a conversation. This conversation is all about us who is sitting here, and an important conversation, because we all of us become so consumed by doing things that we really kind of lose ourselves. At least I found myself at one time carrying about a couple pagers, a telephone, and feeling very important because I had a few certificates hanging around and credentials were fairly decent. And I thought, wow, I made it. But then it began to look like that I was losing it as well. Most psychiatrists, they say, begin to lose it by the end of their career anyways. So I'm kind of entering that career path too. So if I have a conversation which is not making sense, it just is my age. Just forgive me about that. So the initial part of my conversation is going to be about certain facts as they are scientific facts. The second part is going to be partly practical tips, so that you have some, because I want to kind of, I know legal system allows us to establish certain facts first, and then we can make a comment. So I thought that I'll establish certain facts, and afterwards then I will invite you to participate in a conversation and a little practicum, almost like a little lab. So please participate in that, because you would forget the paper that you'll take with you, but you will take an experience with you though. So when I tried to Google for Blackberry, I only could see telephones. The fruit does not even show up. You really have to type in or put in Blackberry and then fruit, and then some fruit shows up, but still the Blackberry still shows up too. I think it is stress. We are kind of losing our stripes. We were named as human beings, but we have become human doings. Is there any time that I can ask you and say, would you have the time for doing this thing? You say, I'm already very busy. So most people find it very hard to say, I have so much of extra time, I don't know what to do with that. We all are really kind of crunched with the time crunch. And really kind of, again, as I was saying, we are losing some of the very basic tenets of being okay in our life. So with that said, let me call you back. The teacher is distracting me. So, so there is some very important text that has to go out in the classroom, because, that's how our children are these days. This lady is peeing and also telephoning, and the guy is driving and also telephoning. I have not seen that on the television, but somebody was saying that a woman was walking somewhere in a mall or someplace and texting, and then she falls in the fountain. So the new telephone is going to be, which will say, fountain arriving, be careful. Because we are so preoccupied with our telephones and things that we forget the time and space where we are at, and it's for all of us, really. It just is the nature of the way we are these days. So it's not only for America. This is my home country, Pakistan. So guy has nothing really fast to go, but he's using telephone on his way out on this donkey cart. Every place in the world, the telephones are arriving with furiosity. But it really is not the telephone itself. It's a symbolism of the technology in itself and the times as they are. We are just picking up that as one example among many. So this is real fruit. This is what we used to have and what we used to enjoy as the Blackberry that it's called. So in case you forgot, this is how the flower looks like. And these are some of the Blackberries as they were at one time. So the objectives are the impact on our health due to current living conditions, and the emerging epidemiological data, which really is becoming increasingly stronger and stronger. We get volumes of medical sciences, and they're linking conditions with the lifestyle. So they are kind of, it's very interesting. Before it was anecdotal and people thought it would. Now they're actually linking how the present day living is causing diseases and disorders. And then we'll kind of figure out some simple ideas which you already know, but you may not have been practicing. It just is returning to those simple things. So when I will be beginning to talk about them, you say, well, I already know that. It's not a big deal. What's the problem here? We came all the way here to talk about this subject matter that I already knew, but we have to be able to revive those things or else they will continue to be missing. It's kind of, so the guy in New York is in, Empire State Building, and as he's on the top floor, leans forward, he falls over. So from whatever 100, the story building that is, he is going down and picking up speed. On the 30th floor, a woman puts her face out and says, "How is it going, sir?" And he goes, "So far, so good." So sometimes we can go in our lives and we don't think that something is happening to us, but the way we are living, it is affecting our heart, it's affecting our bodies and our stomach and our muscles and cardiovascular system in general and blood pressure and so forth. So when we think that we are okay in the moment, it is really so far so good until an event occurs which stops us from doing what we are doing, but it's important that we stop before that event occurs. So why is it important? Scientific studies suggest only about 25% of how long we live is dictated by genes, according to a famous Danish twin study. The other 75% is determined by our lifestyle and everyday choices we make. Huge. It's a huge ability to shift the way we can live. Often people would say, well, I had no choice because my mom had diabetes or my father had this thing, so I have to have this thing anyways. No, we have absolutely a huge ability to shift the way our genetic expression can take place. So we really cannot just blame it on our genes and our fathers and forefathers. We have to take some responsibility here. So some of the most common things that I hear in our practice are unable to sleep or sleeping too much, financial worries, huge, panic and anxiety, I just don't know how to shut my mind down, relationship difficulties are a huge thing, being alone. 40% of the people are living alone. I'm just alone. Even if they're living with somebody, they're not kind of feeling that they're living with somebody. Does that happen? If you're living with somebody and you don't feel that you're understood. Health issues, feeling stressed out at job or no job, unable to focus, alcohol and drug use, obesity, and legal challenges. This is a large chunk of our everyday practices, over and over again. Let me tell you, when I was in St. Francis doing my residency, that's not too long ago, about 20 plus years ago, I did not see as much of difficulties which were manifestation of the living structure issues. They were more disorders and diseases. People had schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and other conditions. I see a lot more conditions which are really just a discomfort with the way we are living anymore rather than disorders and diseases. Now this is a very important slide and very important. It's a plumbing slide of a sort of our bodies and our mind. If you think about who we are in this moment, it's kind of a very mysterious thing. We are 70% really dust and 30%, sorry, the other way around, 30% dust and about 70% water. This is what we are in this moment. But we are mysteriously alive and have a consciousness and have our thoughts, and I wonder where those things come from. But somehow or the other, we are living mysteriously and are alive in a very complex manner. It's absolutely very complex. But I'll try to make it very simple to the subject matter that we are addressing today. There are two major systems which it's almost like if you're driving a car, there's a brake system and then there's an accelerating system, right? And both of those allow us to have some sense of control over our driving, and we can drive to distances. So our bodies have a parasympathetic system, which is more of a braking system, and a sympathetic system, which is an accelerating system. We all know very well how to manage our sympathetic system. It is a flight and a fear kind of a system. So when I have 10 things to do in about 5 minutes, I'm on a sympathetic system. I'm on a rush, right? I got to run, I don't have the time. And how many of us are pressed for time and living in almost a sympathetic fear zone? It's almost like a run kind of a mode. I sit on the mental health board of Westmoreland County, and just a couple of days ago, we had a little flyer that was floating around, and the first thing it said was the sign of stressful living, and it said, "Do you eat your meals on the run?" How many of us sitting here have difficult time finding the lunchtime? How many things we got to do during the lunchtime, right? Okay. So if you can identify with that, eating is the most important part of our living. That's what we do. We eat and that's what we become. Our bodies are made up of what we are eating, and we're eating on the run. And so if you can think about that, just imagine how stressful our systems are. So the sympathetic system, and both of them actually what we call innervate almost every cell of our body. Okay? So every cell of our body has the ability to be either on a high alert mode or on a peaceful mode. Okay? So whether it's liver, whether it's our bowels, whether it's lungs or heart and everything, it just is the way the system is. Now, generally speaking, we have the ability to, I can do cardiovascular exercise and I'm already kind of pumping my heart and everything is going. Most of us don't know how to really activate the parasympathetic system because we just don't know that. And it's not something that we can just pick up one day and say, I'm going to be relaxed and I can be relaxed. It has to be cultivated. It just is that kind of a complex thing. So cardiovascular disease is the most common disease that kills most of us. Okay, that's the number one disease. Heart attacks and those kind of conditions. And this condition, from heart to skin to every system you can think about, is related to the state of our mind, the state of our body in general, and then the state of our being. And I just want to kind of pick up one or two systems just to highlight that they are kind of really related. People who sleep well and sleep on time have reduced incidence of common cold and flu. Simple. Okay? But if you're sleeping at 12 and you're waking up at 5 and your sleep is kind of already, oh my God, I'm waking up with too many things, you're far more susceptible to various infections and conditions. Okay? And then you're going to pay your co-payments for your medicine that you're buying. So the simplest thing, this is at the level of infections. Okay? This is a little T-cell. So when some bug comes around in our body, if it's a healthy, stress-free T-cell, it just engulfs it and eats it up and destroys it. Isn't that interesting? Just like a dance of life. You say, oh, come on, buddy, you don't belong here in my environment. Let's eat you up and just throw you away. But if your T-cells are all stressed out, just the way you are stressed out, this T-cell is going, I would like to fight with this infection, I just don't know how to. I'm so stressed out. So I'm going to take a rest. All right. So then you're bugged out because you're so out of yourself. And it's so mysterious. The other side, we have a little galaxy. It's as complex as the stars and the novas are, as are these little complex armies of fighters, which are really so much important for our everyday living. So if you're stressed out, your immune system is stressed out, or your money back. We all are living in toxins. So this is the second point I want to kind of make. There are thousands of hazardous chemicals. When we make them, where do you think they go? Okay. Yesterday at our home, my wife picked up garbage. I pick up the garbage 80% of the time. Wife does it 15%. Kids do about 2 to 3%. Is that applicable in your homes too? We bring they want the pet, we take them out, all the cleaning and so forth. So I was on my garbage number 3, and last week it snowed and we did not get the garbage out. So the garbage is piling up, right? Where would that go? It's there. You see it. And during this time you don't smell it a whole lot, but in summer you smell it too. And you remember to take it out the next time on the right day. So the garbage that we put in our brain, all the noise that goes in through our hearing, through our eyes, the 24-hour television that goes on, and the things which go on, where do you think that goes? In our brain, right? Okay. All the chemicals that we are producing in the world, where do you think they go? They go out in the world that we live in. And at this point in time, even if you take a simple potato, it has about 57 chemicals which should not even be there. Okay? It's all the herbicides and things that we make and so forth. And to make it here, human body is simply a living, breathing mixture of chemicals, that we are out there. And I'll just kind of, in here, pick up one study maybe. 9 people tested for 210 of these chemicals. On an average, these were measurable levels of 86 out of the 210 toxic chemicals in people's bodies. You and I. It's not somebody else. It's not someone else who is out there. It's you and I, because if our home is clean and my oxygen is flowing well, you live in an atmosphere which also has some other beautiful things too. Now, these are not my made-up number. They're just kind of the way they are. So the chemical burden, in my point, is huge. So these things that we are eating, we need to know. Skin for women, a hugely important thing. If you're using things to decorate yourself and you don't know what you're putting on your skin, our skin absorbs chemicals. It's that simple. So what you apply, it gets in your body. Sometimes we just put a small patch for hypertension or different things, tobacco and those kind of stuff, It gets in your body, right? And imagine all the chemicals that we apply in our body, and what do they contain? And a lot of times those are containing things which may not be very healthy. You just have to begin to look for them and make sure they're safe for you. I don't do any product sales, so I'm not selling anything here. But my point is that, and I'll just make one more point, and then we'll kind of begin to have a conversation onto some of the other stuff. Medicines. In my olden days, we would have people on 2 or 3 medicines for conditions, and it used to be effective for most people. Now I have 6, 7, 8, 9 medicines for each individual. It used to cost $10, $12, $13, $30, Now one medicine for $800, and people actually are having to make a decision: should I buy my grocery, should I do something, or should I buy my medicines? Huge difference in the medical cost. Hospital cost used to be the most important part of the cost. Now it's the medicine cost, okay? And they're hugely very expensive medicines. So some of the data is really kind of very interesting. The number of drugs ordered or provided is 1.9 billion. And percent of visits involving drug therapy are 71%. Doctors are getting very busy. So what do? As quickly they want you out, as quickly you enter. Right? They open the door for you too. As fast. And I just was very happy to see something. You think I can move around a little bit? Can give me the little. There was in Post-Gazette an article about attorneys having difficulties with alcoholism, and I was so happy. Not that it's a good thing, because we doctors do the same thing. We are also in the same concern for lawyers. So there was a large article. Doctors not only are hurrying to do what they're doing, they also are so stressed out that's absolutely amazing. I served for about 8-9 years as medical editor for Allegheny County Medical Society magazine, and we would have background conversation before the real meeting starts, off the record, you mean? And the neurosurgeons and everybody would say, I don't know, I'm so busy, and I keep on seeing people for the same problems over and over and over again. I wish people would change the way they live, okay? This used to be, whether it's a cardiologist, whether it was a neurologist or a neurosurgeon, it used to be the background conversation all the time. And then we would go out and do the same thing that we would tell people not to do. Isn't that beautiful? That's absolutely lovely, because we know theory a lot, but we live the way that we don't want everybody else to live. We are also very busy, busy at night calls and those kind of stuff. And my point is that all of us sitting here mean well, but we end up finding ourselves struggling with the commitments and the duties and the wantings and the wishes and the longings that we get trapped in the same cycle, and then we try to balance it out by doing something in our life, and whether it's alcohol or difficulties of eating or whatever else that might be. But my point is that it's not somebody else's story, it's our story. It's you and I, it's not somebody else, and sometimes it's easier to. So most people are using analgesics, hyperlipidemia agents, which is to bring our cholesterol down, and antidepressants. 3 most common used drugs in whole United States. Isn't that interesting? And I can tell you how many times we see that these are our own productions of difficulties that we are trying to chase by taking a pill, because I want to get back quicker and go out and do the same thing again. Okay? I have a heart attack, fix me. I want to go out and start doing the same thing over and over again until my last heart attack takes me away. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to illustrate some of the things which are that serious. Even in use of medicines in children, it's absolutely amazing. Everybody's diagnosed with bipolar disorder, whatever disorder. The rate of autism has increased tremendously. I was talking to an ophthalmologist friend of mine, and she goes, she's seeing a lot more cataract at a very younger age. And I said, why? And she goes, it must be something in the air. I don't know. My own son, he is now 21. At age 17, he had thyroid cancer. And when I was talking to the gentleman, at UPMC, he basically, the surgeon basically said, we just are seeing a lot more thyroid cancer. I don't know why. Okay, and I'm not by any chance saying it has a relationship to some of the things that we think maybe. I'm just saying the incidence of certain diseases have increased, so the quality of life has in some ways decreased, because we are just running and rushing, and that's all I'm saying. I'm not making a statement of as if something is, I know a lot more than what I already have said that in the manner that I did. All right, so that's that. I could, on this segment alone, spend hours of research data to make a point. I really could. But I just want to illustrate a few tips here and there, that if you're having difficulty sleeping, if you're having a lot of headaches, if you're having some health issues, and if you really are struggling, with time crunch, welcome to the club. We all are. We all are in the same boat. I'm no different than that. I struggle with that all the time. The needs of our children, the needs of our patients, the needs of our community, wanting to heal the world, wanting to make sure, I do my volunteer work and all of the above. And then at the end of the day, you begin to scratch your head, how much and where can you try to balance it out in some shape and form. So we all are really in the same shape. Nobody is, including all of us who are talking here. But some solutions are on the horizon. Okay? And I'll tell you how they may be effective. They're simple, and they're so simple that most people even think, why would they even be effective? So I want to do a little testimonial of a gentleman that I have worked with recently. Do you want to come on up here? Because slideshows are slideshows. A real person is a real person. And I think that it really comes from heart of a real person to kind of make a point of relevance.
Thank you, Doctor. When the doctor asked me earlier this week, I was apprehensive in my mind quickly that I might say something, or I might know somebody, or somebody might think, what's wrong with him if I come and speak? But that was a fleeting moment. I then thought, maybe I'll say something to somebody here that might make a difference for them and how they see things and how their life is. Well, basically, I suffer from depression and panic attacks and anxiety. And I've had this condition, I'm sure, for quite a few years in my life. I'd say probably at least 15 or 20, but I've always had it in the background during my life where I've thought I could help myself and go through life and through situations and ignore it, basically, and work through those tough situations. So I've gone through numerous job changes over the past 25 years. I've had 6 different jobs. I've worked through customer service, sales engineering, engineering technicians, production managers, and I've always had this sense or this fear factor that, you know, am I good enough to do these things? Can I handle all these things? And why does this happen that I lose my job or that there's a transition taking place where my life is going to be changed because somebody decided it was going to be changed? So I've suffered that way in my mind that maybe I'm not good enough to do these things. So there's been a self-doubt in my life that has occurred throughout a period of time. Most recently, within the last year, I went from a job in drafting and design. It was coming to a close. I made a decision to jump to a completely different career position, which was in claim professional with an insurance agency or insurance company. So it was a new experience. I knew a lot about building products and the knowledge that was necessary to do claims, but I didn't know what was on the insurance end of it. But I thought I could handle it, and I thought I could do it, and I started the process and got through till July of this past year. And the reason things changed was we went through a very particular time frame of bad weather like we are experiencing today, which quite frankly gives me some flashback moments of what I went through. When we started February 8th of last year, you know, it was a very tough time for weather, and the kind of problems that were created by that weather created problems for me. It actually increased my workload tenfold. I was working 16, sometimes 18 hours a day for 7 days a week to try to keep up with claims. And it was something that I knew going in I was going to be required to put in more time than I had probably had ever done before in my life and give up things that maybe I, in fact, didn't think I would have to give up. And I thought I was strong enough to handle it after working for 25 years. But I realized as I went through that process from February through July, and when July came, for some reason, we were still reeling from the effects of that storm at that time. One night, I had fleeting moments throughout the part of June and July before this happened to me that I was in a panic stage, that I was in a revolving door situation that I couldn't get out of. I couldn't handle the situations anymore. I couldn't deal with the fact that I don't have time for my family. I don't have time for myself. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to handle this. And I had panic attacks in the evening. I woke up one night crying in my bed in a sweat, and my wife held me and told me that things would be okay. I didn't realize how bad things were. That was the trigger in July, that from all the years that I had dealt with the issues of probably having depression, that this was the trigger mechanism that took me to the edge. I felt completely helpless at that point. It was something that I couldn't imagine was happening to me. I felt guilty. I felt alone. I felt disgraced. I felt less of a person, less of a man, because you're not supposed to be like that. And I broke down. I had a major breakdown at that point, and I saw my PCP, and she directed me at that point with medication and told me that I needed to seek help, that I was really a position in my life where at this point I better get some help or I might not be around anymore. And I thought long and hard about that, and I said, you know, the job is not worth it. My family means more to me than anything. And that was the biggest problem for me, is that I was losing that touch, that real feel of my family is here. And I want to be there for my 11-year-old son and my wife, who have done great things for me, and they've been with me. I've been married 20 years this year, and my wife has stood by me all the years that we've been married, all the time. She could have left. She could have decided that, you know, she was tired of me with job changes, tired of the situation with me being upset or not able to control my emotions or the anger and the despair. But she stood with me, and I appreciate that. And it was important that I get help, and I realized that I needed to get help. And I went to Tcells, and that was a recommendation by my primary care, and I'm so thankful that I did do it. It was a humbling, and it is still a humbling experience to deal with it, but I've come a long way from where I've been from July till today. I can say that the type of dialectic behavioral therapy that they use, the mindfulness, the emotion regulation, all those distress management and tolerance management has helped me greatly decide what's important, what isn't so important, and how to balance those things together to try to find the middle road and wise mind, as they say, reasonable mind, emotional mind, and wise mind, to find some balance to your life where you can work, but you can also enjoy your family and be around for your family. And, I made some notes and some things with my individual therapist that I see on a regular basis that she asked me one time. She said, what are your 3 goals for the return to work? And how do you want to handle that? And I said, well, here's what's important to me. And family, I must commit to putting aside quality time with my family. I must make plans and follow through with those plans to enjoy the family that I have. It is important to give my son the time he deserves. As far as work, I wrote, focus on the task at hand when I am working. I must maintain a calm, cool, and collected attitude while performing the duties of work. I must set certain limitations for work and hold to them. As for my wife, I must plan quality time with her and stick to it. Focus on her needs by listening and actually hearing what she needs. Strengthen our relationship spiritually and emotionally. Thank you.
Okay, so Kim and Jamie, you want to come on up? So we'll do a little practicum here. I'm sorry I keep on. And this is actually one of the tools and techniques. So this individual has highlighted the importances. We'll kind of do a little display of something. The stage is yours. What's that? Yeah, sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? My name is Kim Ruth, and I am a counselor at Tcells. I work with Dr. Chaudhary. I am a mental health counselor as well as certified in addictions. And actually what we're here to do today for you is to give you a little more experience rather than you heard some information and some theory behind some things, but we're going to have a little more experiential time together this afternoon. So we're going to do something for you first. And then I'm going to have all of you join in as well. So one of the things that I do as a hobby that is really a good mindfulness practice for me and helps me to be grounded and centered is I'm a dance teacher as well. So this is Jamie. She is our assistant office manager. So what we're going to do for you today is give you a little display of dance this afternoon. Please keep in mind we're not professional dancers. We're just here. The one thing that we do believe at Tcells is there's a connection between body and mind. So really this dance was created it's a dance of recovery. So it's moving from a place of trauma to a place of recovery and healing. So that's really the point of it. So we are not by any means professionals. We're just here to show you how the connection between body and mind can be helpful. And we're actually, as a therapist, I do try to incorporate some of these techniques into the treatment I do, but also enjoy that for myself as well. Because movement is a part of everyday life. And, from the time we begin to learn how to walk, we're encouraged to dance and to move. I was at a function of my children's, a school concert, and the kids were up singing, but yet there was a little girl with another parent standing here. She was very tiny, had to be less than 2, and she was standing there and dancing, so she kind of stole the show. Everybody was, looking at her and really enjoying what she was doing. And so we are encouraged to move our bodies from the time that we can walk. So it's a very important thing. So we're going to start by showing you something, but then and it'll make sense in a little bit. Okay. So now it's your turn. So I would like everybody to stand up. So earlier, Dr. Chaudhary was talking about that sympathetic and that parasympathetic nervous system. So we're just going to work a little bit today we're going to work to kick in our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the brakes. We talked about the accelerator and the brakes. So this is just something that you can take home with you to kick that into gear. So what I would like everybody to do is I'm going to give you a word. It's going to be a feeling word, an emotion. And I want you to just take a minute to think where you might feel that in your body. Okay? And then we're going to transform that into some type of movement that would relieve that emotion or that feeling. So we all have to kind of let our guard down, and just I ask that you open your mind. And what we're going to really do together is choreograph our own dance together. So if anybody has any inhibitions about dancing, that's okay. We're going to do this together, and it's going to be guided. So we're not going to do the hokey pokey or the chicken dance or anything like that. The first word I'm going to give you is stress. So I just want you to take a moment and think about yourself and where you feel stress. When you are really having a stressful day, where do you feel that in your body? Okay, so now I need a volunteer. Who can tell me where you feel that in your body? In my neck. Okay, in your neck. So what do you really feel in your neck? Is it tension? Tension in your neck. So it's tight, it's tense. So what do you think, what kind of movement could you do to release that tightness or tension using your body? Okay, so how would you stretch? Would you roll your neck, or would you stretch it back and forth? You would roll it? Okay, so let's all try that together. So if we felt tension in our neck, we could just roll our necks. Everybody just roll. And just be careful if you have any problems with your neck, because sometimes rolling, if you can't roll it, go up and down. Don't laugh at me. I'm not a chiropractor, I'm a therapist. Okay, so that's our first movement. So either rolling or up and down or side to side, whatever works for you. So let's take another word, anxiety. If you're feeling anxious or nervous, think about where you might feel that in your body. Just take a moment to think. All right, so who can tell me where they feel that in their body? That nervousness or that anxious feeling.
Your breathing.
Who said that?
Your breathing.
Oh, back there. In your breathing. So how would you breathe if you were feeling that way? Short kind of breath. So what movement could you do to kind of release that feeling of anxiety or nervousness? So take a nice big breath and let it out. So if you took a nice big, and the breathing that we do, when we are nervous or anxious, we breathe from our chest. So it goes along with that sympathetic nervous system. That's one of the things that happens in our body. We have short breathing. So it's kind of that shortness of breath. But when we breathe from our belly, we again kick in that parasympathetic nervous system. So if we have a deep abdominal breath from down here, we're kicking that into place. So if you take a nice big, and if you can feel your belly rise and fall instead of your chest, then you're really kicking that parasympathetic nervous system in. So let's try those. So even if we take our arms up and let out a big breath, then we can release some of that nervousness or anxiety. So let's try those two movements together. First, we're going to take our heads and we're going to roll them. We'll do that twice. And then we'll do two nice big breaths. Are we ready? Ready, set, go. This is our stress. We're releasing our tension in our neck. And then we're going to take two nice big breaths. Let out a nice big One more time, up. Very good. So one last time, if you're feeling, let's take another word. If you're feeling depressed or down or sadness, where would you feel that, do you think, in your body? Come on, where would you feel that in your body? I need one more person to be brave. This is a happy group. They don't think of grief or sadness.
I think depressed people collapse.
So if when you're feeling sad or down or grief, you kind of might collapse. So you might be like hunched over or kind of like without life, very lifeless. So what would be a movement to kind of get rid of that, to release that? Like that? Like you're praising or worshiping the sun. That would be the opposite. Okay, so let's all try that together. Ready? On three. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Very nice. So we're going to put all three of those movements together. We'll do each one twice. Okay? On the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. First with our tension and our stress. And then we're going to move to anxiety. Nice big belly breath. Out. Another one. In. And out. And let's worship the sun. And one more time, give nice big worship with the sun. Very good. Everybody give yourselves a hand. You did a wonderful job.
All right. So the this was a very practical but a simple way of really activating our parasympathetic system. It didn't cost us a dime, and we were sitting here and doing that. Now there are thousands of similar ways, and I'll just kind of give you the science behind that. And then I'll kind of try to summarize that into how many simple things can bring in, just in a simple manner, what we yearn for, just a peace of mind and a good night's sleep and those kind of stuff. So here's how it works. If I'm very, very angry, the emotion of anger or frustration expresses in my body. So generally our hands are clenched, our muscles are tight, and we have a grin, and we are kind of ready for a fight kind of a mode. The body assumes that position without us planning for that. It just is the nature of the communication which takes place just like that. So the next time that you're very angry, and if you remember, open your fist and just let it be an open fist. Have a smile on your face, and let your body be in a bit more relaxed mode. Even if you try to be very angry, you just cannot stay angry. It just doesn't, because the body has to communicate with the anger emotion and stay in that position for that to continue to have the signals back and forth that, it's an angry position, damn it, he shouldn't have said that. I hate these people, whatever that might be, because your thoughts are making your body angry. Your body is kind of giving you the message back to your brain, yes, I'm ready. I'm on the go. But if you reverse this order with your body, your mind says, why is this guy smiling? Why is the fist open? Why is the chest breathing from here? It just doesn't make sense. Maybe there's not a whole lot of things to be angry about. A simple shift of the body shifts the brain's chemistry. It's that simple. However, we just do not know often. Number one, we don't think often. Number two, we don't know how the positioning of the body can really change the brain chemistry. It is that simple. And since it's that simple, people don't buy into it, because people want to have some very complex anger management group where you sit down and write your plan for 3 months to 6 months. It's all analytic. You're thinking and you're planning up here. It's not actually a practicum part of that. And so there are simple tools of that kind which really bring in the awareness to the ability for us to actually have some peace in the midst of all this chaos that we find ourselves, running and, even jogging. I mean, if somebody tells you, if your doctor says, your jog or else you will have a heart attack, that exercise should never be done. You know why? It's based on fear. Okay? Fear is making more stress. It's not even worth doing it. You want to do an exercise which is based on joy and wisdom and niceness. So I tell people, I like you to have an exercise as if you are playing on the field when you were having fun on life. Oh, when I was this old, I used to do this thing. I really had fun. That's what you want to do. Reconnect with your good memories and return to the best part of your life and begin to enjoy that again. So if it's forces of fear, the forces of fear are going to activate your sympathetic system. You actually are making more catecholamines and adrenalines, which is going to actually give you a heart attack quicker. So it's not even worth doing that. So there are simple shifts of how we can shift ourselves into being in this life rather than doing in this life. It does not take a lot of, change of huge lifestyle. It changes small, simple things. So I'll just now kind of summarize by a little story. And this story is from a book, and just read that. The temple was built on an island, and it held 1,000 bells. Bells big and small, fashioned by the finest craftsmen in the world. When the wind blew or a storm raged, all the bells would peal out in a symphony that would send the heart of the hearer into raptures. But over the centuries, the island sank into the sea, and with it, the temple bells. An ancient legend said that the bells continued to peal out ceaselessly and could be heard by anyone who would listen. Inspired by this legend, a young man traveled thousands of miles, determined to hear those bells. He sat for days on the shore, facing the vanished island, and listened with all his might. But all he could hear was the sound of the sea. He made every effort to block it out, but to no avail. The sounds of the sea seemed to flood the world. He kept at his task for weeks. Each time he got disheartened, he would listen to the village pundits who spoke with unction of the mysterious legend. Then his heart would be aflame, only to become discouraged again when weeks of further effort yielded no results. Finally, he decided to give up the attempt. Perhaps he was not destined to hear the bells. Perhaps the legend was not true. It was his final day, and he went to the shore to say goodbye to the sea and the sky and the wind and the coconut trees. He lay on the sand and for the first time listened to the sound of the sea. Soon he was so lost in the sound that he was barely conscious of himself. So deep was the silence that the sound produced. In the depth of that silence, he heard it, the tinkle of a tiny bell, followed by another, and another, and another. And soon every one of the 1,000 temple bells was pealing out in harmony, and his heart was kept wrapped in joyous ecstasy. Do you wish to hear the temple bells? Listen to the sounds of the sea. Do you want to have a life of beauty and harmony? Listen to your heart. That's all I had to present. Maybe you can do a bedtime story tonight for yourself and dance. I truly appreciate your listening into our goofiness, but this goofiness is bringing in healing in many without the toxicity of the medicines. I do want to kind of say that we use medicines and treatments effectively, but we do not overprescribe, and we also mix in the joy of simplicity of life, and it's amazing how people get better, and we all can also find simplicity in our life and still do the work that we do, but we can become human being again rather than human doing. Thank you.